David Lynch started as a painter, but his desire to make his paintings move brought him to filmmaking. He devoted 4 years to making Eraserhead, and his dedication paid off. That success led to The Elephant Man, which earned Lynch his first of 2 Oscar nominations. With Blue Velvet, Wild at Heart, and Twin Peaks, Lynch found his place as America's most viable avant-garde filmmaker, one of the few artists whose name is used as an adjective. His new film, Lost Highway, is a mystery that is thoroughly Lynchian, and he is also being honored with a retrospective at the American Museum of the Moving Image, and I'm pleased to have him here at this table for a consideration of the films and his life. Welcome.
Thank you, Charlie.
It's great to have you here.
Good to be here.
Now, when people say Lynchian, what do they mean?
I haven't got a clue. I think when you're inside of it, you can't see it.
Yeah.
And so I don't know.
Yeah. When you think of those films that you have made, is there a common denominator for you? I mean, is there some sense of some space you're trying to explore, and each film is an exploration of that?
No. Each one I see is separate. I know there are things that tie them all together, but you start falling in love with ideas, and it starts forming a whole, and that's what you translate. And it feels like a brand new thing each time.
Have you, since '92, 5 years since you've made a film, been in search of an idea?
Yes. In '92, after Fire Walk with Me, which is a film I love, but I think you could safely say it did not
critics didn't love
go
it.
over so well. But I'm hoping that someday people would take another look at that film. But there seemed to be a strange dark cloud hanging over me, and through '94 it was sort of, maybe in '94 it started lifting. And catching ideas is very tricky. It could happen tomorrow, or it could happen next week, or 5 years goes by. So you have to stay alert and watchful, but you never know when it's going to happen.
What was the dark cloud of the first 2 years?
A feeling in the air that sometimes you have green lights and you can do no wrong, and sometimes they start turning yellow and maybe even red, and that was the feeling.
So green light would have been after Blue Velvet, what, 86, 87, somewhere in there, and then Twin Peaks. That was a green light. You could do no wrong, and you were everybody's darling.
Yeah, Blue Velvet sort of kicked things in, and as you go up, you feel the upness is outside of you. You don't know exactly why. For some reason, people are taking you up. And the same way when you go down. You can't figure it, but it's happening.
Do your powers of creation feel strongest when you're going up? I mean, does it?
No, they're the same. It has nothing to do with it. A depression can stop the creative process. But when you feel very good about your work, which I did, except for Dune, but when you feel good about it, the channels are, open still.
Dune, you said you don't feel good about that. You're sorry you made that film.
No, I learned an awful lot, and I, love Dino De Laurentiis and Rafaela De Laurentiis and all the people that worked in the film, and many good things came out of it. But overall, I didn't make the film I think I should have made.
Well, what came out of it was, in a sense, lessons to avoid the next time you go out.
Exactly.
Like Final Cut. Don't give it up.
Exactly. So Dino gave me Final Cut for Blue Velvet, and away we went.
Right. When you were looking for ideas, what were you looking for? I mean, what is it that, is it something to fall in love with?
Yes. Ideas, it's strange because the idea is not there. And then suddenly, the idea comes into your conscious mind. And it comes in like an electrical spark, and it's known in an instant. And then the next thing that could happen is you could fall in love with that idea. It may just be a fragment, but it could have implications to a whole world. It could be such an idea that it just pulls you, you know, and you want to go there. And those are the things you're looking for.
What was the idea of Lost Highway?
Well, actually, part of it was the two words Lost Highway, which Barry Gifford had written in his book Night People. And for some reason, those words made me dream. It wasn't any story. It wasn't any, it was a possibility, and a dreamlike possibility. And then the last night of shooting Fire Walk with Me, I had a thing roll through my head, which was an idea, but sequences of ideas. And not controlling it one bit, it unfolded. And I held that until Barry and I got together and told him that, and he happened to like that, and the title and that idea was the starting point, and then you go from there. But a starting point focuses you in one area, and when you get focused, you become like a magnet, and you can together pull things out of like a doorway, and they come out and show themselves to you.
So if you find a starting point, then you can take the next step, and
yeah,
the next step, and the next
each step is easier.
After you find one place to plant your foot for the first time.
Exactly right.
And that's the idea that
starts the
cements
process.
the process
Yeah,
for you.
Exactly right.
Yeah. And is there a script in your mind by this time, or just a story you want to develop?
Well, in the very beginning, there's neither a script nor a story. There's fragments, and the fragments.
What was the fragment? I mean, other than the title "Lost Highway."
A couple receiving videotapes
at the doorway,
and they went more each tape, and a fear arose.
Yeah. It's the invasion of their.
Right. What does it mean?
Space.
Right. So. That is not a story. Some indications of some characters are there, but the fragments eventually hook themselves together and show you how they want to be arranged.
Having completed this film, what is it about?
That's Charlie. You know, it's a film is so many things, and you work for 2 years or more to get it to feel absolutely correct as you can make it. And then to translate 2 hours of an orchestrated thing into some words, especially when you don't have a gift for words, is you always fail. So I can't tell you.
All right. I'll tell a little bit of the story.
Okay.
Well, we'll tell the story. And there's a couple. Bill Pullman plays Fred. And his wife is played by Patricia Arquette, and all of a sudden videotapes there, and then Fred eventually, I don't know where to stop telling the story because we don't ruin the movie. Fred ends up in prison on death row, and then goes through an amazing change, and out comes another character, and Richard Pryor's in this film. And tell me about well, let me take this clip. This is a clip, first clip. This is where Robert Blake, you haven't seen him in a while, and he plays a fascinating character. And he approaches Bill Pullman, who plays Fred Madison, at a party. And here is what they talk about. Roll tape.
As a matter of fact, I'm there right now. It's crazy, man.
I'm not sure if I hadn't said Robert Blake, people would have seen Robert Blake at first glance.
Right.
Can you tell me about casting Robert Blake, Richard Pryor, Bill Pullman?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Well, since you started with Robert Blake, the talk shows have something to do with casting Richard Pryor and Robert Blake. I'd seen In Cold Blood. I admired Robert as an actor, but on I think the Carson show, I saw this very independent, strong-willed, one-of-a-kind people, and I had a lot of respect, you know, for him, and always from then on wanted to work with him. And the problem is you have to get the right person for the right part. If the part isn't there, Robert doesn't come on board. So finally, the part was there, and I called Robert, and he came over, and we had a great talk. He's started acting when he was 3, as you know, and a million stories. Incredible character, Robert Blake. I wanted him to wear some teeth, but he said he couldn't put appliances in the mouth. He'd gag and become sick. So he came up with the ears. I wanted him to be pale, but then he did his ears and the hair, and
he became your character.
Just looked perfect. Yeah.
Richard Pryor.
I saw Richard Pryor on a talk show. I'd seen, you know, like everybody else, all the things he's done, and but something came through. He's had such dark experiences in life, and came out the other side, and just had a greatness in him, and kind of a wisdom of life. And I just said, I want to know this person. I want to, you know, love to work with him. And this came about. The part was small enough that he could do it. He's in a wheelchair, and said he wanted to do it, and
he wanted to do it.
He wanted to do it.
He has MS, I think.
Right. And so we finished what we had to shoot, and then I got him in the office of Arnie's garage, where his character works. He owns it, and set up a premise, and he ad-libbed for 9 minutes on the telephone, which was unbelievable, brilliant stuff.
Robert Loggia.
Robert Loggia wanted to play Dennis Hopper's part in Blue Velvet, and came on a day we were testing an actress, and there were 2 people, a young guy to test for Kyle's part, and Robert Loggia to test with this actress for Dennis Hopper's part, or Frank Booth. And I didn't get to Robert. And when I went out to tell him, you know, we had to shut down, he became very upset. And I never forgot how upset he got. And so it was sort of perfect that I saw the anger that he's sitting on, and it just made him perfect to play Mr. Eddie Dick Laurent.
Because you used Kyle a couple of times, should I assume you two are friends? And
we're friends,
and
yeah.
you wish you had a part in this film for him?
Always. You get to know people so well working with them, and form friendships, and see possibilities for other characters that they could play. It's just waiting for that part again. And, you know, eventually, hopefully, it will come along for a lot of people I've worked with.
How do you feel about the film now that it's done?
I love it.
Okay. Rolling Stone has a picture of you, and this is what they say. Betrayal, sex, murder, deception, and 9 Inch Nails has to do with this guy. But in fact, this same writer says it's the best thing you've ever done. Do you think it's close to the best work you've done? Do you feel it's as good as you have done?
I don't think
measure it 1 versus 2, but
they're like children, and you can't really say that.
All right. Another clip here. This is Robert Loggia, who plays Mr. Eddie, and suspects that that Pete Dayton, played by Balthazar Getty, is the mechanic, is sleeping with his girlfriend, Loggia's girlfriend, Mr. Eddie's girlfriend. Roll tape. Here it is. Tell me what David Lynch saw in the scene we just saw. What was in the director's head?
That scene?
Yes.
But that's what was in my head.
The scene was in your head.
Well, when you get ideas, a picture forms, a mood forms, sounds come, and pretty much a feeling of a total thing appears. Then when you get into each element, more things can appear, but basically, you know up front what you're going for based on the ideas.
Do you know who influenced you? I mean, people look at your work and they say Hitchcock. They look at your work and say others.
I think you know, I love Hitchcock, and there's many people that I love, but influences for me have come more from places and things I've seen in these places.
Like?
Philadelphia is maybe my biggest influence.
How so?
I was there at a time when the window was wide open, and what came in, when the window is open, things come in kind of, you're unprotected, and things hit you very powerfully. So what I saw, I've carried with me.
What hit you?
The wide range of human behavior.
Yeah. Twin Peaks was about small-town America. Blue Velvet is about small-town America. Lost Highway is about Los Angeles.
A portion of
A portion of Los Angeles.
It's a story appears again. The setting is comes with it, and a setting says a lot of things that are difficult to say in words. It gives you a lot of information, and it gives you a mood. And there again, if you turn the camera a little bit to the left, it would be wrong. You'd see something that broke that, but
broke the mood
and made it incorrect. But you turn it right there, it's saying it's exactly feels right. And so all of your location scouting, everything is to find that feeling. And sometimes on location scouting, you can't find the thing that appeared in your head, so you find the closest thing, and then you work to make that even closer. Sometimes on location, you find new things that give you new ideas, and so that's part of the business of staying alert, because many things come in that affect the final thing all along the trip.
So place is an important stimulus for you.
Yeah, it's one of the elements, but every element is important.
When you're making the film, how kind of director are you? I mean, is it all sort of there and scripted and you adhere to this script, or are you a director who wants the actors to, in a sense, run with it?
Well, no. In the beginning, what you want is the actor to bring all their talent out in the correct way. So there's always a beginning. And in the beginning, you sit down and you start rehearsing a scene that may be a scene that illuminates that character the most, a good starting point scene, and you rehearse it. And no matter what it is, then you've started, and then you talk, and then you rehearse, and then you talk. And what you want is that a person like Bill to lock into that same place you're locked into, and catch this thing, and from then on it all rolls out perfectly, or next door to perfectly.
You're on the same page, you're on the same vision, you're riding the same wave, you're doing all the metaphors you can find.
Exactly, but that's just a process of tuning in, and it happens with everybody on the crew to tune into this one, and then you move as one.
A couple of your actors are Dennis Hopper and Nicolas Cage. Here's what they've said about you on this show. Roll tape.
Because he's really a Boy Scout, David Lynch.
Right,
he really is. He used to say, now this word here, when you say that word, okay, that word being the F word,
right.
You know, when you say that word, well, he wrote the script. I mean, David, do you know what it says or not?
Right.
You know, but so anyway, and he would say things when you did a take right, he'd go, peachy keen, solid gold.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Okie dokie.
Okie dokie, yeah, right. So anyway, I said, the Boy Scout leader said, what is that? And I said, well, let me look at me, and I'll do a sense memory here and show you what an amyl nitrate or nitric oxide would look like, which is going to disorient your mind for about a minute or two, and like, you know, and so and give you this rush and so on. So he looked at that and said, oh, that's wonderful, wonderful, do that. And I said, then if you want to dub the voice in later, we can put that word voice in, but right now I'm just thinking about the voice and I can't act through it. He said, no, go ahead and do what you were doing. So I thought that was a great contribution to this film, which he had written and was directing, until I thought one day, I got alone just about a year ago, much later, I got alone and I thought, you know something, if I would have played this part the way David Lynch had originally intended it, by just having my voice go, baby wants to,
it would have been all over.
You know, I thought, wow, weird guy. This Frank Booth would have been even weirder than I thought, you know? So I don't know. Yeah.
How about David Lynch?
The same thing. And in fact, he is a jazz musician director. I mean, you never really know what you're going to do when you get to the set. You know, I remember one day he came to the set and he said, Nicholas, you're gonna sing opera today. And I said, well, what do you mean? He says, well, there's going to be a cotton ball under your bed, and I want you to have a bad dream and sing an opera song about the cotton ball. Just like that. And I said, well, okay, man, let's do it, you know, okay. And I had to come up with
an actor.
Yeah, right. Come up with an opera song, and I didn't feel stupid about it. I mean, I felt like this. I mean, if it would work, it would be in the movie, you know. And he really believes that fun is essential. I mean, it sounds like a trite word, and it is a trite word, but you have to have fun, because if you're not having fun, the audience won't have fun. So his set, by the way, is very fun.
So what do you think of that?
Well, Dennis does a very bad impersonation, but Nicholas, they're both so great, and you can't say enough good things about both of them. But you know, it's part of what I was saying of getting to know an actor. You see something one day, and then you get an idea. And Nicholas is pretty much fearless. And giving him a challenge
to sing opera,
he just grabs it,
yeah.
and he goes all the way. So does Dennis, and I've been very lucky to have worked with the two of them.
Yeah, but you just told me as we were watching that conversation with Nicholas, it didn't make the film.
No, it didn't make the film, but sometimes that happens.
All right, there is a sense about you that you're prepared to go down the dark road.
I think I like the idea of going down in, and everybody is like that. Everybody is a detective. The unknown is a magnet, and you can learn many, many things by going down in there. And but it doesn't negate a bright road either. A film is made up of contrasts, and you know, knowledge and experience of combined opposites is sort of what it's all about.
Yeah, but the mystery is what turns you on.
Mysteries, we love mysteries. Life is filled with them. And some of them are very abstract.
And in all this, are you exploring your fears, your hopes, your dreams? I don't mean in dreams for position or accomplishment, but just what wild things are happening inside your head?
That's a tough one. I think it's it has so much to do with love and cinema. The marriage of ideas with film. There comes this possibility in this world that you're going into to experiment and learn and experience. It's an experience that you're building.
Let me go back to, and let's talk a little bit about Eraserhead, your first film. I want to pick up on a lot of them here. Tell me about that.
Eraserhead?
Yeah, a long time ago. What was it, 19? Now, one thing we should say about Jack Nance was there, who died recently,
right.
and someone you loved a lot.
Yeah, I've known Jack for 25 years. I met him late in '71, I believe. And a great human being, great actor, and I consider him one of my best friends. So, and he was in almost every film I've made, and it's going to be tough because here is a guy that gave me ideas for many, many characters, and I just think about him, and a character would, you know, almost would appear.
Roll tape. This is Eraserhead with Jack Nance. As we were watching that and we went to the thermometer, which said 98.6, and you said completely normal. I mean, the whole idea was... Do you ever listen to Laserdisc now made by, and what director's comments are on the film? Have you done that?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, it's fascinating to hear what the director, just the kind of thing we just saw is what you would have seen, you know, at one of the tracks. The next film I want to talk about is The Elephant Man. Here is where Mel Brooks gave you a shot.
You bet he did.
He saw something in Eraserhead he liked.
He did, and I mean, 100 people with money and who were producers could have seen Eraserhead, and all of them but Mel, I think, would have refused to meet with me.
Roll tape. Elephant Man, David Lynch nominated for Best Director for the Academy Award.
Right.
Here it is. I mean, a sense that of confidence, a sense that, and I'm doing something that I know and like and enjoy and love, and I'm beginning to get my hands around it.
It was a blessed film, and how I came to be part of it was something. It's just the feeling of fate playing a part is there so strongly in that film, and you know, it's just a gift.
A gift that you had the opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
Final cut.
Yeah. Well, Mel had final cut, but in effect he gave it to me, and Mel was very, very happy, very supportive. Mel Brooks is he's a complicated genius. He's, I think a lot of the great comedians must have a genius, you know, in them. The knowledge of human behavior to make things funny. And the knowledge of human behavior is so great in Mel that he saw and appreciated this whole thing completely and was very instrumental in how all the pieces were, you know, put together, and like I said, was a huge supporter.
Have you ever wanted to make comedy?
Yes.
Can you do it?
I've made some attempts, but I'm very interested in humor. I'm interested in a humor that can sit next door to horror or fear or something more serious. And an out-and-out comedy, even though I've written them, I somehow keep myself from following through and doing it. And like they say, comedy is like mathematics. 2 and 2 make 4. This and this make a laugh. And it's you can't make a mistake. It's, I think it's for instance, the Academy Awards, they're the least likely to get nominated, but maybe the hardest thing to do is a comedy that works.
Mel Brooks is eloquent about how difficult, you know, there's a great story about when his wife comes home one day and she talks about how bad it is at the office, and he walks over to where the typewriter is. He said, "This is a bad day."
Right. Right.
Blue Velvet, before we go to the clip, you're fascinated, or you want us to say and know that in the most ordinary of places, there are incredible things going on behind closed curtains. That among the most normal appearing, there is wildness, obsession. What?
Always a doorway or curtains kick in the imagination, and they just do that. You begin to wonder what is on the other side of the door. What is going to happen when those curtains open? And it starts a process going. Everybody in the world, because we love mysteries and we're fascinated by all types of human behavior, we would love to float into rooms and observe, not to cause harm, but to learn more and to see how much the same or how different we are. And it's there's always the surface of things, but we sense many times more than what we see, and these sensing pull you in, and you want to know, and so there you go.
And the character of Frank Booth.
I think one time I was in a place and I saw this person that came in. It's hard to remember because Frank is probably several things maybe came together, but this one person I remember seeing might have been the seed for Frank. When I saw him doing Frank-like things.
What was it? What did he do, and what was it about him?
It was I think in the 70s at a place called Bob's Big Boy restaurant.
And you just saw him?
I think it's on Highland Avenue. Yeah, and I saw him, and there it was.
All right. Roll tape. Blue Velvet. Dennis Hopper. Dennis was perfect, I said during the, and you said.
Dennis is born to play Frank Booth. That's what he told me on the phone. We talked about Dennis, and as everybody knows, Dennis had some problems with drugs and alcohol.
Yeah, as Dennis frequently tells us.
Right. And so, even though I was thinking about Dennis, but I think his manager called up and said, you know, Dennis is you know, on the wagon, and he just finished a picture, and it went great. And so I began to open up, you know, but when Dennis called me, and he said, I have to play Frank Booth because I am Frank Booth, that, of course, did it. And no, more truer words have never been spoken.
What comes out of your story is these amazing ways that actors end up in your films, not because of some performance. Dennis says, I am Frank Booth. Loja throws a fit because it's Dennis and not him, and you remember that next time out.
Right.
Do you have, what's your self-image of yourself? I mean, Dennis said, I mean, was it Dennis said Boy Scout? And they say you use these words like, oh, great and terrific and, you know.
You know, many people use, oh, great and
Yeah,
terrific.
I know, it's true, but.
We have, all of us.
That doesn't define Boy Scout, does it?
All of us have, again, our surface and our persona, the personality, rather, and the personality is almost like it sometimes you just wish it wasn't there because it's causing you to act in strange ways when underneath that is something else. And so we all have the feeling we meet somebody and we have our first impression, and little by little we see something else. And the more you get to know somebody, the deeper you go, and you realize that many things. That's the way Jack Nance was. Many depths and powerful thinking was going on inside this man.
Francis Bacon, I will see, if I went and looked at the paintings of Francis Bacon, would I see something there that reminded me of a David Lynch film or vice versa?
Probably. You know, those paintings are about struggle, or torture, horror, but maybe much more than that. There's something, again, the initial image is one thing, but then something else comes through the paint, and it almost could be exalted. It could be a spiritual thing. It starts a process going, and but again, with Francis Bacon or any great painter, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. What it gives to the viewer with the dialogue between you and the painting is an awful lot more than what's there on the surface.
What are your fears?
Pretty much the regular, you know, fears.
Do you dream? You
I feel like I'm at the psychiatrist.
No, well, that's good.
Yeah, I dream, but I don't go by nighttime dreams. Nighttime dreams are, they're sometimes some good ones, but it's daydreams that I love. And sinking down, sitting comfortably in a chair, where you might be controlling some of the thoughts and directing yourself here or there, but at a certain point, the dream takes over, and you enter in a place where things are unraveling before you without your intervention. And many things can present themselves that way, and sometimes ideas that you fall in love with.
You've been in therapy?
One time.
One time?
Yeah.
What happened? I mean, you just decided that...
I've told this story before.
Oh, I haven't heard it.
No, it's okay. Well, I went in... you know, I had a reason, you know, for going in. And then I asked him straight out, right up front, could this process that we're going to go through affect creativity? And he said, David, I have to be honest with you, it could. And so then I had to shake his hand and
say
and
goodbye.
go,
This
yeah.
is not for me.
Yeah, because it's a magical thing, and you don't want to know so much that would, you know, stop it from happening.
Do you understand creativity?
No. I understand the pleasure, joy of it, and I understand that it's a beautiful process to go. This, like any invention or anything, starts with an idea, and the idea then gets manifested in the material world. It's a beautiful process, and many internal rewards in the doing.
If David Lynch went back and looked at his own beginnings and wanting to be a painter and all that is part of your history, what would it tell us about David Lynch, the filmmaker?
And if I want to go back,
If you went back and looked at your childhood and the
Uh-huh.
shaping influences on you, would it be instructive about you and as a filmmaker?
I had to know. I think, you know, it doesn't matter where you are growing up. It has something to do with just sensing your environment and having the things triggered by the environment and your sensing. It could be anywhere, because the same things happen everywhere. As long as there's human beings and houses and trees, it will happen.
I'm thrilled to have you here. I really am, David.
Charlie,
This is a
thanks a
fascinating
million.
conversation for me.
Thanks a lot, Charlie.
Lost Highway is I don't want to say David Lynch is back, but he is. You know, I mean, you caught an idea, then you've made a film, and I suspect you feel very good about that.
I do, Charlie. Thanks a million for saying these kind
Thanks.
words. Okay.
Thank you very much.
See ya.
We'll be right back, and we'll talk about Tibet with Bob Thurman. Stay with us.